Well, Rebecca, welcome to Book Club Babble. Rebecca Faye Smith Galli is the author of Rethinking Possible, the memoir of resilience. She's also a weekly columnist who lives in Baltimore, Maryland, and who writes about love, loss, and healing. Rebecca, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us. Let's start with some introductions, or should I say a little bit first? You have survived some pretty significant losses in your life, beginning with your 17-year-old brother's death, your son's degenerative disease and subsequent death, your daughter's autism, divorce, and 9 days later, paralysis, a rare spinal cord inflammation that began as the flu. So it seems like a list of so many devastating things, yet you wrote about them in a way that has just, I honestly couldn't put the book down. It was just, you have a lovely way of bringing meaning and purpose to things that we wish had happened. And so anyway, I'll let you say something about the book.
Thank you. It's such a warm welcome for you from you, and I really appreciate it. It's been quite a journey, a 20-year journey to get her published. I never thought I was going to be a writer. I was a sales gal, and I like to say never in a million years would I think that I would write a book until I became one in a million and was paralyzed by transverse myelitis. So, and writing really became my way of communicating with people that the wheelchair kept me from doing. And so I'm really grateful. That was 1997, just about the time the internet was coming in.
Wow.
And my first email that I got was from a long lost high school friend. And the subject was, "Is that you?" And after paralysis, after the divorce with 2 special needs kids, and I was really wondering that myself, who am I?
Wow.
How am I going to manage this life that I did not plan? And as you know from the book, I come from a family of planners, so I was challenged. But I guess after writing the book, when I think about, I tried to write it in a positive way because I learned so much about myself and other people. But I think at some level, the book I think is about living fully in the life you didn't plan. And I think at some level, all of us kind of do that.
Right.
Not everything is textbook.
Exactly.
But we can have the plans, but they don't always go out that way. But we had a very positive start in our home. We had a lot of positive feelings and love. So I think that was a strong base for me.
Well, speaking of that positive start, and before because I wanted to have you read, especially one of my favorite parts.
Yes.
It just boggles the mind to hear you say that you are a natural born writer.
Oh,
your stuff flows. And that's for people that have not picked up the book, and for those that we want to go out and buy the book. I want you to read a little bit of, when you first introduce us to your story, you talk about a fairly idyllic 1960s Southern upbringing, complete with the pastor father and stay-at-home mother. And one of your introductory passages was just, it was like, I don't know, it just stands out for me. So if you could read a little bit that, introduces how things were the moment right before.
Yes, when life was really good.
When life was really good.
Yeah. Really good.
Really good.
Okay. So at the beginning of every chapter, I tried to pick a quote that would kind of reflect what the chapter is about. And this quote is, "All the love we come to know in life springs from the love we knew as children." And I really believe that's true for me. "We were 5 until we weren't. Our world was orderly and predictable until it wasn't. We knew so much about love, laughter, and the joy of being family until we didn't. I remember one Friday night meal so well, especially my prayer, the one that still haunts me. It was summertime and I'd been preparing for weeks. It was 1964 and I was 6 years old and thought I knew everything. I was the rule follower and vigilant enforcer, in charge, or so I thought, of my 4-year-old brother, Forrest, and my baby sister, Rachel, who was 3. After each trip to the grocery store, we would watch Mom set aside 2 or 3 items for the beach box, a sturdy cardboard box she tucked beside the refrigerator, far out of our reach. Saltines, Peter Pan peanut butter, Mount Olive dill pickles, and 2 boxes of Life cereal filled the front, while the special treats, Lance cheese crackers and Little Debbie oatmeal pies, were mostly hidden near the back. Our plan was to head out before daybreak the next morning for our annual 2-week trip to Myrtle Beach. My siblings and I colored as we waited in the den for Dad to get home. It was almost time for dinner, a family staple you could set your watch by. 6 o'clock was the usual magical hour, when all outside distractions were turned off, put up, or otherwise silenced, so we could share an uninterrupted family meal together. We knew no other way to dine.
I love it. I love it. It's just, it's poetic. And so tell us about the slow unraveling of what many people would describe as the perfect family. And when you decided to write, this compelling narrative of love and loss and healing, because again, what I think I mentioned this before, I was reading your book while we were away at the beach. And, when my family members, would say, well, what are you reading? And when I would say a little bit, they said, wow, that just sounds so, that's awful. I can't believe that happened. And why do you keep reading? And it's just so beautiful because and that's why, and I think that we'll be able to convey it in this interview. It is so inspirational in ways that, and maybe we could talk about how you came to the title, Rethinking Impossible, but when did you know you were going to tell the story? Let's start with that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I didn't think I was a writer. I had some kind of negative messages through high school and college. My high school English teacher, when I brought her my precious poem about my dog dying, I thought it was so heartfelt. Well, she called it maudlin, and I didn't even know what that meant at the time. So I looked it up and I said, oh, overly sentimental. Okay, I guess I must write from the heart too much. And then when I was in college, the only English class I had was the freshman composition class. And this straight A student got like a B- going into the finals. And and the comments were, you're not getting to the point. You're not very clear in what you write. So I was overly sentimental and not clear. I definitely did not think writing was in my future. But I think the need to express myself, the need to put my life in words once the paralysis hit, just made it so much of a passion and a necessity, because I didn't want to lose. I was very active. I was IBM sales gal. I'm used to selling big computers and working with customers and building relationships. And all of a sudden, when your legs don't work and you've got, 8 kids ages 3, 4, 6, and 9, it's a lot. It's just a lot. So, but this avenue to talk to my friend via email, those emails I sent to him, and he would send them to his friends. And then this is way before blogging. I would put every email address into the next one and send it out, and they shared them and got shared. And so somebody said, why don't you think about submitting it to the newspaper? So the Baltimore Sun published one about me playing soccer with Peter, my then 4-year-old, from the wheelchair, guarding a garage door. And so that started a weekly column. Somebody read that and said, well, how about doing a weekly column or monthly column for a local news paper? And then a few months after that, somebody suggested, why don't you write a book? I don't know about writing a book. I can barely do the columns. And in 1999, my query letter, they tell you 99% of the query letters get rejected. This woman accepted my query letter. Then 99% of the proposals, I wrote a full book proposal, got rejected. She accepted it. She shopped it for almost a year, could not, this is back in 1999. None of the traditional houses wanted it with the unknown author, first time author, that kind of thing. And so basically the book rested and had many different shapes from 1999 until I finally went into publication 2017. So it had a long journey, but I had to have these affirming experiences after the negative input, in my younger years, that I guess I could write because I was building an audience, and an agent said it was okay. And eventually it got published, but I just wanted to tell my story my way. There's a lot of ways you can tell a story. And I've got it in my bathroom right above my mirror. I wanted to write so that I could teach my children what life has taught me. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to convey, especially the sense of love that I felt, and then I tried to emulate to them. And then as these waves of adversity kept coming, you do have to rethink possible. And I think, acceptance is huge, where you have to accept your new reality, mm-hmm. and then rethink what you can do within that reality. This it wasn't my title at all. I mean, they give, I think I have a list of 10 or 12 different titles, and this is the last one on the list, but it seemed to resonate the most. Mm-hmm. And now that I have it, and when people think about it, it's like, yeah, that's what you have to do to survive something. You have to rethink what is possible within your circumstance. So,
well, I'm glad that you mentioned, because it is very clear throughout the book that they are life lessons that you want to teach your children. And they are so positive and uplifting that it's, I don't know, that's why I wanted to ask, about how you came about rethinking, possible, because you almost, when I tried to describe to someone how in a different interview, you had said, not only am I content, I'm more content. And some folks who just don't understand that so much adversity just brings some people to a point of gratitude. And I said, this isn't like a pity party narrative. It is beautifully told, but there are lessons along the way that, you just give so much with every vignette. I think we, your readers, we walk away with something very powerful, something that tells us not only about you, but how we are going to go on, how life goes on. And it just, you rethink, possible, impossible too.
Right. Well, and I think, I have my days, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
There's some days that are hard to get out of bed. You wonder if all the body parts are working and if it's going to behave today. It's like having your own 2-year-old that's attached to you, because you don't always have, control of everything, but most of the time it goes well, but every once in a while, and I'm not living the life I really wanted to live. Right. I didn't want to be a single mom at this age. I wanted to be married. I wanted to have a large loving family, and mm-hmm. but my family is just different than the one I envisioned, right. We still, it's a lot of love there, and I am happy, but I remind myself that when they start going down on that, the edge of the pit, the edge of that pit, bitterness is not attractive. It's just not attractive, to exude sorrow or feel sorry for yourself. Now, that's not to say I don't have my private moments, and I think you have to do that. I like you honor grief, you honor the sadness by giving it space, but you manage it, and that you don't let it take up residence. There is a place for that.
Right.
And, I can read a section about my brother's death and cry like it was yesterday, but I've gotten to the part of the journey where I'm appreciative that I had a brother for 17,
right?
Because some people never get the experience of having a brother,
right?
So it's a lot of elevate and try to get the perspective, so that the journey down low isn't so bumpy, but
tell us about some of your fans and some of your readers who had not seen things, maybe what have they walked away with, because some folks aren't as positive as you are, and they will, not move from the woe is me. And not that, I'm not being critical of that, but it just, I think we're less and less resilient sometimes. And I know that there are many people who have read your work who have said, wow, now that I see it this way, I am going to be grateful for, all the years I had with my mother, or all the years. What is your audience? What have they learned? What have they come back?
I think it's, I think the one of the things that gets brought up more than anything is to realize the importance of self-care. There's a scene in the book where my father is dying, and my mother and my sister and I are in the room with him, and we have this huddle up prayer, and he says to all of us, make sure and take care of yourselves.
Oh.
We thought he was going to say, I did, take care of each other,
Right.
But I think we have to be aware of our strengths and our weaknesses and where we need help. And to that self-care for me, and this is one of the transforming things that happens to character Becky in the book, is
Right.
she realized her parents, when we shattered, were taking part in self-care. My father became the chaplain of the football team at Marshall University. And so he had all these 20-year-old boys, very similar to my brother. And my mother was very involved in the support groups and led them about grieving parents who had lost children. And some of that felt like, where did they go at age 20? But looking back, I realized they were grieving and doing it, exercising self-care. Now, they still were parenting.
Mm-hmm.
They had their own grief. And I think that's one of the hardest things to realize, is that people closest to us often can't be the supports we need when we're in deep grief, because they're going through their own grief. It's hard.
Do you ever see writing as self-care? Because I know that for me, without writing, that's how you get through the most difficult. I mean, for those of us, it's just like this need. It brings, purpose and meaning to whatever has happened, good or bad. Do you think that has a big part in healing? And
I do. I encourage people to journal. And for me, sometimes you get circular thoughts, especially when you've got a lot of uncertainty and you're not sure what the next step is going to be. And so you play these what if games. Well, what if this happens, or what if that happens? And if you can write it down and get it on paper, somehow that always just made the thoughts stop for me. And that it was in one place. And so I journaled a lot throughout all of these. And that was one of the helpful things in writing the book, is I could go back to the journals and really get into the mindset of what was going on at that time.
I'm sure that this has been like a wonderful gift to your family, and just, if anything, to know like mom's all right, she's going to be okay. She's strong for us, continues to be strong for us, but it's a form of, like you say, self-care. And I mean, you make it look really easy. I'm sure it's not, but what has been your family's reaction to such a beautiful memoir?
Well, their life's out there too.
Right.
So, it's funny though. I was thinking about that, because one of Becky, you were so brave, you were so bold to write your life out there. And, I grew up with a minister father, and we never knew when some of our antics was going to wind up as a
Oh, that's true. I never thought of that.
So I was kind of used to, like, look out, I wonder if that's going to make the sermon this week.
Right.
But and then when I started writing my weekly column or monthly columns in 4 different, they never knew where their antics were going to wind up in the newspaper. So I think they were kind of sensitized to that.
Right.
I think they're, I think they're proud of me, I guess, that I
What?
finally got it together, that they, because I worked on this thing 20 years, and it's like finally, but they're very encouraging, very supportive. Um, so yeah, it's, but there's some sad pieces in there too. There's some sad things.
Right.
It's like when my father wrote the book about my brother's death, I couldn't read that for a long time because I had to relive it, and Dad would say, "Did you read the book?" And I was like, "Well, not exactly, or read snippets of it because it was hard."
Yeah.
The book. And so,
Oh, I can't even imagine.
yeah, it's like I had to live it. I'm not sure I want to reread it again. And their lives changed tremendously too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things at looking back, now that I've got the empty nest, I look back and it's like, I wish I would have been an able-bodied mother for them. They missed out on a lot of the things that I couldn't do just because of this, the wheelchair and the paralysis. And I'm a little sad for them that I couldn't be a more fully engaged mom. There were times where I couldn't go to places that I wanted to go because I had to take care of my body.
Mm-hmm. But one of the things I think your book teaches us is that full engagement means different things. And to me, it was like you were more engaged than so many other parents that take sometimes our bodies, our mental faculties, everything for granted, or just, the health of our children. And so to me, it was a different kind of engagement that was just incredibly present. So, don't be so hard on yourself because I don't see it that way at all. And I bet you your children don't.
Oh, well, as my sister said, we just do the best we can.
Exactly. Let's talk about some of the message how you help others who are dealing with grief, and what do you want people to take away that are, let's say, dealing with profound loss, that are at a point like, where do I start? I need help now, and that loop, as you say, is they can't stop it.
Yeah, I think the thing about grief is that I like to say, and I think this is one of the quotes in the book, grief is as unique as your fingerprint. So I think that we all go through grief at a different pace. And I think this is a time where you really need to have the blinders on in terms of comparing yourself to somebody else's journey as you go through that. I think it's important to have plans. I think it's important to surround yourself with people that are helpful to you. I'm always a big one to say, who's in the boat with you on this? Who can you really confide in? And some people aren't good for you when you're, in that situation. And that's when it comes to knowing yourself and what helps you and what doesn't help you. And if the person in the boat isn't helping you, you can kind of uninvite them graciously.
Mm-hmm.
And uninvite them because you need to be selfish and get what you need to get through that tough time.
Right.
And so I would say that, don't isolate, recognize the uniqueness, and to be patient. The other thing I say, grief is a strange companion.
Yeah.
I mean, just when you think you've got it under control, you'll read something or, smell something or see something, or somebody will say a word and it pecks you on the shoulder, and there you are right back in it. And that's normal. There's this stages of grief that was once taught as you need to work through them and check the box at the end. And it's more of a cycle where it's like you get through the deep grief, but then there's this kind of absence that's with you the rest of your life, because that part of your life is no longer.
I love that you said, because I know it's been almost a year since I read the book, and I don't remember, and I'm sure it's because you were being gracious to not talk too much about the people that you had to uninvite, but when I think about it, that is interesting, and it's a form of self-care. There are well-meaning people out there who aren't the best at, either they make it all about themselves or they don't let you grieve in your own way. Is there, was that hard to keep that kind of stuff out of the book, or is there another place? Did you ever talk about that in one of the monthly columns? Or
Well, I was pretty honest in here about things people said that were not helpful, like everything happens for a reason, or God doesn't give you more than you can handle,
right,
or those kinds of things. So I was pretty direct. I think I hit it twice in here, just that it was because there's you know, but or I know exactly how you feel, you know, and even I just feel so hesitant to ever say that to anyone, because in a way it kind of it discounts the pain,
right,
make it so, I guess, with a platitude like that.
right,
The most helpful thing is just being around or being willing to listen. And these days we have so many ways to listen, whether
right,
sending a little smiley face on your text, or
right.
you know, you can a little email or email cards. There's just tons of ways to show that you're in someone's, that you're thinking of someone.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think you might have addressed it in one of the print interviews, where the philosophy that sustains you, and I'm quoting you, life can be good no matter what. And this is, it's different than that platitude of everything happens for a reason. It's almost like, you know, skip forward really quick. Let's just get over it now. Whereas yours, life can be good no matter what. It's not saying that what happened was right.
Right.
What happened was fair. And I like that. How did, you know, I don't know, I guess, how were you able to come to that philosophy? And I guess it was from maybe the pain of.
Well, it's about looking for the positive in the circumstance, and it's life can be good no matter what. Not life is good.
Right.
And so the can means that you have to work at that. You know, you have to look for that. That's where I think the gratitude that you talk about, you know, even in the worst circumstance, you can find something to be grateful for.
Right.
And that's, for me, that is a daily and specifically weekly quest for me. When I took one of the writing classes I took, the guy, he was relentless. He wanted us to really narrow down, why is it do you write? Why do you write? Because if you don't know why you write, the chance of sustaining it and your discipline for it is going to fall short at some point. So I thought, and it's like, I write to remind myself what I believe.
Yeah.
That is, life can be good no matter what. Right. So these Thoughtful Thursday emails that come out every Thursday at 7 a.m. are about what I have witnessed that week, what I have seen or heard or something that reminds me that life can be good no matter what. And it can be a beautiful sunrise or a quote or just an experience with someone. And because I have to keep reminding myself of that, you know, that's kind of like the end.
And when are we going to see those Thoughtful Thursdays in a book or in a project?
You know, I thought about that. I have thought about that. Thanks for reinforcing that. Maybe I should do that.
I think so too. Well, Rebecca, I think you've written a beautiful memoir, and I think that we are lucky to have you, and lucky that you turned to writing and sharing that with us, because it's incredibly inspirational. And I thought maybe we could finalize the interview with, you know, more reading. Sure. And you tell us what you've picked. And
yeah, I've done a few book clubs now, and this is the first time that someone asked me to read a particular section. They said that this was their favorite part, so I got to read it last week, and that was kind of cool. So this is the letter that I wrote to Brittany, my daughter, and her husband, her to-be husband Brian, about their wedding, for their wedding day. This is a letter I wrote to the newlyweds. First of all, I want you to know how happy I am for the two of you. My heart is bursting with joy for you now, the young couple so much in love, and for the couple of the future, sure to be filled with a deep, abiding care for one another that I see in you now. The scripture reading selecting for your wedding has it right. Of faith, hope, and love, the greatest of these is love. Here is what I want to say to both of you on this, your wedding day. It is my daily hope and prayer for you. Brittany and Brian, from this moment on, you will face life together as you have never faced it before. You are a couple committed to one another for life. It is a special, sacred commitment. I hope you can find guidance from this one simple thought. Let your love be larger. Let your love be larger than adversity, than issues, than people or circumstances that threaten to pull you apart. Let it prevail, triumph, overcome. Release the urge to be right, the urge to win, the urge to remember each time you have been right and won, and let your love be larger. Love is all the things the good book tells us, patient, kind, understanding, but it also is the most powerful force we have. Use it wisely, cherish it, sustain it, nurture it. Before you act, ask, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it loving? And let your love be larger. And as your circle of friends and family expand, let love teach you that it has more than one way to be expressed, that judging others' loving ways is a useless exercise. A more important action is to let your love be larger and learn from it. What can a different expression of love teach you about others? Respect it, honor it, and open your heart a little wider to include it, even though it may be so foreign to you. And with your children, remember that they are a result of your love for one another. Your love came first, then your shared love for them. Let love overshadow the small stuff, embellish the large stuff, and wrap a layer of warmth around the cold realities that you may face. Love is what we're meant to do, you know. Share our lives with one another. Love can't fix all of life's hard times, but it sure can make whatever journey you are on richer, fuller, and most importantly, shared. Love each other despite, because you can, and always let your love be larger.
Oh my God, you're going to make me cry. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Well, on that note, we're going to say goodbye. And Rebecca, keep writing and keep us posted, because we definitely want to hear more from you. And hopefully we see those Thoughtful Thursdays in a compilation sometime soon.
Thanks for the encouragement and your warm welcome, and enjoyed being with you.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks.